Jadi Collado, welcome to Mom Curious. And hi. We knew each other, I think it was 10 years ago. I've been following along as you got married and had baby number 1 and baby number 2. You made a pivot in your career from being
I
a
did.
full-time actor to a content creator and a fitness instructor. And I just have been watching with such glee, such love and appreciation for all that you do and all that you are. And I'm so happy to reunite with you here.
I
Welcome,
know when I
welcome.
received your message, I was like, my heart fluttered so hard. I had all these butterflies in my stomach, not of nerves, of excitement, because I was like, oh my God, Daniela.
I know.
Hi, it's been incredibly way too long.
It's been way too long. How you been?
But I've been pretty good, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
In general, looking at your life, like if I kind of like zoom out and look at everything, I'm like, oh wow, it's actually spectacular. But obviously, when you're in it as a mom with, 2 kids, toddlers still,
Yeah.
things, the day to day can kind of take away from the fact that when you zoom out, things work themselves out to be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with pretty good.
I'm so glad. I am so
Yeah.
glad. Are you home with your kids now? How old are they?
I am. So my little one just turned 9 months just a couple days
Wow.
ago on the 19th.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then my older one is about to be 2.5 in September.
Mm,
So 2.5 and 9 months, very, very busy.
so busy. Actually, I ask this question a lot. It's usually my first question, but since I haven't seen you, I just wanted to say hi first. We have your bio in our the show notes. So of
Yeah.
course everyone knows who you are in that way, but I just want to know from your own lips, from your own heart, who is Jadi Collado today?
Today.
If you could introduce yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like, are we going to go deep? Because
Probably
that
gonna go
really hit
deep.
me on some like deep. Oh my God. That's like the number one question for any and all mothers or anyone who's going through any kind of transition, right? Who are
Mm.
you?
Mm.
Um, and I kind of battled that a lot when I became a mom. On a superficial level, I am loving being a fitness instructor.
Mm.
I mainly focus on teaching high energy dance and cycling workouts because that is what I am passionate about. I am a certified fitness instructor, so I can teach lots of different modalities, but I choose to focus on those. And my main uh, not point or my main kind of objective in my classes specifically is to allow people the opportunity to do something and move joyfully. My classes I don't ever want them to be the focus to be an aesthetics thing or a calorie burning thing, though you will burn plenty of calories. Don't worry. That is the point. Like it's kind of built into the workout that you're going to sweat. It's for you to gain something more than just that.
Mm.
Um, and so my hope always is that people can kind of get out of their head, get more into their heart, and help
Mm.
them reconnect with themselves, with their bodies, with their culture and community, hopefully through my music and the way I do kind of like my classes. So
By culture and community, are we talking about like the Latin beats? Are we talking? Yeah, about your
yeah,
roots.
so
Tell me more
I
about
like to
that.
do, yeah, so I like to do, obviously, I'm a very proud first generation Dominican American,
Love it.
Afro Latina.
Love
And
it.
so a lot of what I do is me infusing my culture, my community into what I do. But
Mm.
it's also creating a space for all communities to come into and be accepted. That is what I want. So it's a little bit of me and a little bit of you, a bit of an exchange that I want happening in the spaces that I create in my classes.
How do you facilitate that?
I think it starts with me.
Yeah.
It starts with me. And
Sharing of yourself.
yes, being honest, owning my truths, whether
Mm.
they're ugly or beautiful,
Mm.
um, being authentic
Mm.
in that, um, and hopefully creating a space where people feel seen and heard.
Wow. I love
Yeah.
that. I feel like fitness has come such a long way from
Yeah.
I mean, fitness has always been important and fun. I mean, I think of like, who was that Simmons guy? Richard Simmons? I mean,
Yes.
that was a spiritual experience also, but this seems to be a little bit more like informed movement. This is,
And I think it became an evolution specifically. I know specifically for me, because
mm,
I know back in the day, fitness was definitely leaning more towards an aesthetic thing, especially being, an actor,
mm,
having to, look a certain part for different roles or to achieve the roles you would like to in the future. It was very much an aesthetic thing for me for a long time. And I was most recently featured in Women's Health magazine. And in that interview, I spoke about how when I became a fitness instructor, that my body was my physical business card, that I needed to look the part. And then when I became a mother, the way my outlook on life changed, that really made me question a lot of things, and kind of got me to this place, which I feel because we are talking more about it, um, the industry itself is shifting little by little
what are we
because
talking
people are
about?
from being solely aesthetics, calorie
Mm,
burning, weight
okay.
loss, which I want to come out and say from the beginning, there is nothing wrong with wanting to, lose weight or have an aesthetic goal. But the focus and the judgment and the guilt of not being a certain way or wanting to look a certain way is
Yeah.
kind of shifting
Yeah.
to allowing people to take their time with it, allowing people to find other reasons to be healthy.
Right.
Um, and I think it's because people are talking more about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the way you talk about it. And you also share your own body, like the image of your body on
Yeah.
your social media. And I did notice that like it doesn't affect your impact in the studio. It doesn't affect, in fact, I think you're right. Like it does bring people in to want to work with you just based on you being like, this is my this is my postpartum belly.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go move my body
Yeah.
regardless of the way I look. Isn't that crazy that we would even consider not? Isn't that crazy that
It
for
is
so
wild.
long, like we thought that we had to look a certain way in order to walk through the doors of a gym? What?
Wild.
Like
Wild.
one plus one does not equal two. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't even make sense. The idea of not allowing ourselves into a, a movement space, a spin class, a Pilates class, a gym because of the way we looked. I can't be the only one to have experienced that. In fact, I know I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nutso.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's people do feel a lot of judgment. And it's weird because these spaces are created for all bodies, but for some reason we have this expectation that we if we don't look like a specific body, we don't belong.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. And a lot of people have felt that way for a long time. I think a lot of people still do feel that way. And I'm hoping that I can do my part on creating a space where people don't have to feel that judgment or guilt.
Did you feel that judgment getting back?
I did. I did. I mean, that's why for months when I had my first baby, I hid even from my own family and friends. I mean, I barely
Mm,
took photos of myself when I first had my baby. I got to go back and check, but definitely it took me months before I decided to really show up my full body in a photo with my child because
mm,
I was so one, I just had this impression that like, well, I'm a fitness instructor, I'm an athlete. My body of course is just going to expand a specific way and look a specific way, and then when I birth the baby, it's going to just go back to its old self, like of course, because I'm an athlete, I'm a fitness instructor, that's what's supposed to happen. Which didn't. That's not what happened. I was in a completely new body that I had never known, never seen my entire life. And I was nervous. I
Mm.
was like, I was like, oh, here I am supposed to show up, help people do and or what I thought was do and look the part, and I don't look the part.
Mm.
How is someone going to believe that I can actually lead them
Mm.
to a place where they want to get to if I myself don't look that way?
How did you come out of that?
Well, luckily I went back to teaching because I
Mm.
was like, I miss it. This is
Mm.
something that I love,
Mm.
and I have to stop caring about that
Mm.
because I not only wanted to do it for them, I wanted to do it for me. I needed
Mhm.
it. And I quickly realized that people just wanted me to be present in their journeys, no matter what I look like.
Tell me more about that.
That's all they wanted. They just missed the space that we had created. They missed that from me. Not that I
They missed
had
you.
six-pack abs, exactly, and I, moved a certain way. That's what they missed. They missed me leading them through whatever they needed in their journeys.
Wow.
And that liberated me. That really did. It took me a while to get back to, I wouldn't say my older version, but a newer version of what maybe my previous self could have looked like. But it was so liberating to just be there for other people and a little bit for myself, because that is what
Yeah.
I love to do. I love
Yeah.
to help people through their transitions and transformative experiences.
Wow. That's so
Yeah.
beautiful. And then you got pregnant again?
And then I did
And
that thing again.
yeah, I mean that thing it's a big thing.
It's a really big
And they're
thing.
like 18 months apart, no?
Yeah, they're about 18, yes.
Wow.
And the second time around was so amazing. I think also I was a COVID mom.
Yeah.
And I think that had a lot to do with it. But this second time around, I was able to continue movement through my pregnancy.
Wow. Which you
And
weren't able to do the first time around?
it wasn't. I had a COVID baby, and there were so many uncertainties with the pandemic. I just refused to put myself in a space um, and risk anything with a newborn, with myself, with my family, with anyone who I decided to bring into the bubble that we all kind of had to create during that time.
Sure.
The second time around, I got to continue movement through my pregnancy, and I got to experience that with everybody. And the second postpartum, I was not afraid to show up fully as myself, as my new self, as this mom who likes to move in whatever body
Mm.
she's and move freely. And I
Mm.
had no guilt and I had no shame around it.
Wow.
Um, and people love that. And
What,
people
tell me more. What do they love?
and they loved that I showed up in that way because it allowed them to show up in that way themselves as well.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. As they are. Like
As they
every
are.
body deserves movement.
Yeah.
Endorphins, dopamine, music, community.
Yeah.
Every single body, no matter its ability, its size,
Mm-hmm.
color, shape, gender,
Yeah. Everybody
everyone deserves that the joy of being in their body,
can.
celebrating their life in their
Yeah.
skin.
And I don't want to come out and say that it's always easy. Like, I'll be the first one to say it is not easy. It's not easy for me as someone who is showing up in this way. Like, even talking about it, like, I don't want to pretend like I know it all and have it all down. I definitely have days where, I wake up and I'm like, man, this body, I'm just don't feel comfortable right now. But I'm going to give myself a little bit of grace and just live with that feeling for a bit and remind myself of the wonderful things that my body did do
Does do.
and does continues to do. That's
I
right.
know.
It continues to do and come out of it whenever I'm ready.
Yeah.
It's not always an easy thing, but I am embracing just having a body.
I mean, really,
Yeah,
not having a body means we're not here anymore,
right.
right? I mean, it
Yeah.
really is
So
kind of a crazy, it's like a catch-22, right? Like, it's like when people say, like, I hate getting older.
Yeah,
Well, what's the alternative?
I know.
It's like we got to enjoy getting older, or else what are we asking for?
Yeah, we don't quite have a choice there, but
Yeah,
at
I
least
mean,
we can
we don't have a choice, or we die.
for that.
That's it. That's the
Yeah,
only thing. I mean, either we enjoy this body that we get to live in,
that we get to live in.
we
Yes,
get to live here. You know who else got to live here? Your two babies.
that's right.
You mentioned something earlier where you were like, are we going to go deep or are we going to stay surface around who
Who I
is Jadi
am.
Collado today? And was that the deep or the surface answer?
The
I think you
first
said
one was
is the
the first
first one's the surface.
was I thought. I guess we
Okay,
got.
so what's the deep one, babe?
I mean, we started going down, and it's so easy.
Listen,
I
I'm
feel very comfortable. We're just diving in. We're
we're
just
just catching
going
up.
deep
We're just
waters,
getting started.
coming up for a little bit of water, a little bit of air, and diving back in.
Yeah.
No,
Well, what would have been the deep? What would have been the deep answer if you had gone there?
well, I feel like when I had my first baby, all that was questioned, right? Who am I anymore? Um I had this perception of who I would be as a mom. And when I became that mother, when my daughter was birthed, um, I had difficulties doing even what I thought were the basic necessities of
Like,
a child, feeding the child.
yeah,
Um, Breastfeeding was a little bit of a difficult journey for me.
me too.
Um, Doing just like, I just was all over the place. And so I was like, if who am I if I can't do this mom thing right? Well, then who is Jadi? Who am I? Like, I just started questioning everything. It just made me, I don't know. I just was really trying to figure out who I was and who I could be and who I am now. Um,
What do you mean
and
by
it's,
doing this mom thing right?
yeah, I had this perception that I always thought it was going to be like, motherhood was going to come easy to me. I was always given the role of, like, even amongst my friends, I was very the more motherly one, maternal over my
Yeah.
friends. So I was like, when I become a mother, this is going to be like second nature. This is going to be like easy peasy. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's so not
and it,
that.
and it wasn't. And thank God for I had an awesome partner, because not everyone has that. Um,
Yeah.
but it was so hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
Um, and I had to rely on my community for help, which I think a lot of people are nervous about doing, asking for help. That is something I had to learn throughout my life, is asking for help, because I felt I kind of had to just figure things out on my own for so long.
So your parents are from the Dominican Republic?
Yes, my family's from the Dominican Republic. I was raised from a very, very young age by a single mother, my mom, here
Oh,
in the
wow.
United States. So, yeah, and I've watched her, work multiple jobs to make ends meet. And what's the funny thing I always told her? I was like, I never growing up felt lack of love or lack of anything, despite that, like, you literally were working like 4 jobs at a time, 3 to 4
Yeah.
jobs at a time
Yeah.
to make ends meet. I never felt that I lacked anything at all. Never thought I was like poor, never nothing.
Maybe you weren't poor. Were you not poor? She was
Yeah,
working 4 jobs.
I mean, I
Or
I
were you
wouldn't
and you
say,
just didn't know?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, we definitely, my mom had used government resources and stuff like that, and grew up and all that kind of stuff, but I never felt lack of anything.
What do you attribute that to?
It's interesting. My mom, definitely my mom. It's definitely, all her hard work and everything she did, but she always, and that's one thing I do want, has always stayed with me. She made sure that any opportunities that she could find her hands on,
Mm.
that we at least had a shot at getting.
Mm.
So if I said, like, I want to play guitar, she always found a resource
Hmm.
to ignite that desire for
Hmm.
something. If I said I wanted to do something, I don't know how many activities I tried before I landed on whatever I wanted, but she always found resources for us.
I mean, you were a professional dancer, right?
I did, yeah. I
I mean, that
toured
takes
with makeup
so.
artists for a long time, and
Sorry, I didn't hear what you just said. What'd you say?
I said that I toured with like artists around the world, and did some music videos and that kind of stuff. But
And you were an actor.
and I was an actor,
I
and
mean, that takes like a lot of training
a
and
lot.
resources and someone driving you there and picking you up or dropping you off and picking you up. Like that takes I mean, now that we're parents,
Yeah,
can you imagine having all that practice? Like
yeah,
to literally drop your kid off at all those practices to get to as good as you are in these
yeah.
fields?
And I didn't have that. My mom couldn't. She was working, but luckily I had my aunt who lived literally across the street, my aunt and my cousins. So we kind of all, my mom also leaned on her community. We
That's
had
right.
amazing neighbors who I consider some of my best friends were the daughters of my neighbors. My cousins lived across the street. And so it was very much community based kind of raising of the kids.
I think
Um,
that has a lot to do with that feeling of love and support. I mean,
yeah,
I could be wrong, and you tell me because you lived it. But and I also lived in a tight knit community where, like, friends were like family, and
yeah,
family always pitched in. And I'm also first generation American, and I think like it's I sit here and I often am in conversation with people who are like, please, guys, ask for help, ask for help, ask for help, and you know. I'm remembering that like there are communities within the United States where like asking for help isn't really the thing. It's like the community's raising the children anyway.
yeah,
And actually that feeling feels really good for a child.
it
Like that
does.
it's not all on mom. Like other people love me too.
Yeah. And I'm glad we're talking about this because you know what? All this is coming to me in this moment. These
Tell
are some
me.
things that like I never thought about this aspect of the fact that, you know what, my mom kind of really relied a bit on her community to help with raising us. Obviously
A
she did
lot.
most of it on her own, but we had a community as well.
Oh
And you know
yeah.
what? That's also helping me be more, you know, not, I guess, human in saying, it's okay for me to rely on my community as well, that I don't have to do it all by myself. But one thing I do want to say is that, like, as little resources as my mom had, I have a little bit more now. And so I want to do more.
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't get the rides to the practices and stuff. I, commuted with my cousins and my aunts and my
Sure.
neighbors and stuff like that. But now I get the opportunity to gift my daughters a little more.
Mm-hmm.
I told my mom one thing that always stuck with me. I was like, Mom, I remember distinctly in school, she was always asking questions. How's school? How do you feel? How's it going? And I distinctly one day she asked me about high school and how it was going. And I said, you know what? It feels a little easy. I feel like I've done this before. And
Because you're
I
so
don't know what,
smart.
I was like, I kind of was. I'm not
I
going to lie.
know.
I
I
kind of was
know.
very smart. I was
I
very
was
smart.
in class with you. I was in class. I was in like we did this 1 year actor business training together, me and you, and like you were front row taking notes, implementing, like you're a smart kid.
That's who I was. And I still have those aspects of myself that I still do. But like I don't know the timeline of when this happened, but all I remember is my mom went to the school. I don't know what conversation was had, but maybe a couple weeks later, my entire schedule was changed. And my class to meet the level where I was and to help me grow
Hmm.
in my education. And I asked her recently when I had a child, I was like, Mom, how did you do that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I was able to do that because I made sure to stay involved. And I was like,
Mommy.
wait, what? But you had 3 jobs and you had time to get involved in my school? Just how is that possible?
Hmm.
She's like, yeah, so that I have the opportunity to give you the best of what you can get.
Mm.
And she always applied that in everything she did. And that's why I felt like I never lacked anything.
Because you really never lacked anything.
Because I really did.
It's
She was
like-
like, oh, wait, if I can't get it, I'm going to find someone who's going to give this to you.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's always stayed with me. And I say that to a lot of parents recently is because my daughters go like to preschool. Can you believe that like around here, kids go to preschool like 15 months? It's wild.
I don't mind it. I think
Yeah, it's amazing. But I was like in shock when it first happened. And so I say that a lot to the parents. It's like, you know what? That stuck with me. And now that I can do more, I want to do more. I'm able to do more, so I will do more.
As long as it's not a pressure.
Right.
You know? I mean, I think
There's that
in
too.
every generation we try to get better and better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have gotten so much better. Like there are so many women that I talk to who would consider themselves cycle breakers, you know, when they didn't have everything they need, and they are providing the best to their ability to their children. But I know we have all this information about doing it right, as you said, or being the best or whatever it is. And it is like such a huge leap forward in our understanding of how to raise children and all of that, as long as we're not pressuring ourselves and other women in the process. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my God, the other women part too.
What do you mean? Tell me. Well, you're a mentor, so that's
love that. I love
particular.
that. As long as we don't pressure ourselves and then put that pressure on other women as well. It's so tough. Aren't we like the hardest on each other?
We're the hardest on each other. Yeah, I think so. I think we're the hardest on ourselves, and we are part of an organism, like a network of women who are our peers and women who are our ancestors and women who are our descendants. We're part of something. And if we're so hard on ourselves, like even when we talk about the way we look and the way we move, you know,
Mhm.
it's like if we're so hard on ourselves, what are we telling our neighbor?
Yeah.
So I think it's like, great, sure, go to the spin class or do the best for your child, or, you know, be better than the generation before. But as long as we don't pressure ourselves,
Yeah.
as long as it's done with inspiration and gratitude and not shame.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with us having it better than our parents before.
Yeah.
That is evolution.
Right.
That's why they came to this country. That was the plan.
That was the plan. Exactly.
It's all going to plan. And our children will have better still.
Yeah.
Not that they aren't inheriting, a world with its own stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality. But yeah, I think that's like a very, being a first generation American is such a particular experience.
Yeah.
Because they had to work our parents had to work so hard. Can you imagine coming here with nothing?
Oh my God.
And then having your child be an actor? I mean, it's really that the level of progress and privilege that was acquired within one generation,
right,
in our lifetime was immense.
That's wild. That's wild. Now that wow, that's pretty freaking cool.
From 4 jobs to like
doing what I love, and it's wild. That is crazy. Wow.
It's really
I never
amazing.
had a moment to think about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so glad we're talking.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we're talking. So what are your hopes for your girls when you raise them as women, right? Like here you are like a mentor to women, I'm sure. I'm sure you have like male clients also in your classes, but mostly women, is that right?
Women. Definitely the men are spruced up in there. But I hope to see a world for my daughters and all women where they can, just like we chatted, move freely. Whatever that means.
Say it again, say it again, say it again.
I know, right?
Go say it again one more time.
Just a world where women can just move freely. No, no shame, no guilt, rights,
Mhm.
just everything. I mean, it's like you mentioned, they are adopting the world that they have kind of like inherited and stuff. And, we all want to see better, but um, women should have the ability to move freely in life, do
Mm.
as they choose, how they choose, when they choose. And I want that for my girls.
Amen. I'm wondering, I know you don't do like you're not like certified in like pre and postnatal, but I wonder if you have any like practical tips, like fitness, mindset, within that realm of your expertise, um, takeaways for whoever is listening who's either pregnant or postpartum. And I want to say that postpartum can last years. We
Years.
are all postpartum. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we are all post birth if you've given birth. So,
Yes,
do you have any actionable takeaway tips for people in
I
in
do.
that moment?
Yeah, I have two things that come to mind in this moment. Um, One, don't ignore what the daily activities you do, how that can contribute to your actual health and movement. Um,
What do you mean by that?
there's so there's this concept called NEAT, where all the daily activities you do actually add up to the amount of calories that you expend in a day. And simple movements, going up and down the stairs, um, little things like that, walking to get your mail, or any of those kinds of things, walking to the train station in New York City, like all those things add up to actual daily movement. So
Mm.
don't ignore those little things, and how they count to your actual health in a day. But then my big thing that I always tell everybody is to lead from a place of love. And what I mean by that is, when it comes to movement, I feel like a lot of people have in their head, like, oh, I'm supposed to be lifting weights. I'm supposed to be doing, specific targeted movements for different muscle groups. I'm supposed to be doing all these things, and I'm supposed to be working out 7 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever it is. And I encourage people to just start movement from a place of love and doing something they actually like to do.
Mm.
Because if you start there, that will start changing your mindset and your, what do I want to say? If, say, for example, dance is what you love to do as a movement
Hmm.
thing, once you start consistently doing that, that is then going to start shifting. You're like, you know what? This actually feels good. What else can I add to this to continue to make myself feel good? And then eventually, all those I should be doings become I get to be doings.
Wow.
If you start from a place that you love.
Mm.
Um, because when people get determined, like, to get, on a diet or to start a movement practice, they're just like, I'm going to commit to 5 days a week and I'm going to do it for an hour a day. And a lot of people achieve that 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then they get to a place where it's just like, this is just not sustainable for me. And then instead of, decreasing or whatever, it just becomes zero activity. And so if we incrementally increase that by starting from something you love to do, it increases your chances of you being able to do that more consistently and for longer periods of time.
Yeah.
Not specifically like 30 minutes to an hour, although that's also the case, but specifically as in, like, from 1 week of movement to hopefully a lifetime practice of movement.
I love that
Yeah.
so much. I'm really taking that in.
Yeah.
The other thing that came to mind, even though I asked you the question, but the other thing for me that came to mind that's helpful is wearing clothes that fit.
Yeah.
Like, if I don't fit in something, like, I don't have to keep it in my closet. I don't have to. I,
And that is hard for some people to get to that place, because they have an idea of who they were in those clothes prior to wherever they are actually, right? And they want to hold on to that as some place to get to. But it'd be nice if we could start just honoring where we are.
And I'm wondering, like, since you had that experience with even your family, like not even
Mhm.
wanting to be seen by your family, how would you sort of help someone negotiate that experience? Like, I want to go to the gym, but I don't want Jadi to see me this way. Or
Yeah.
I want to get on stage, but I don't want to see the pictures of me 20 pounds heavier. Or I want to go to that baby class, but like, I haven't lost the baby weight. There are real thoughts like that keep
Yeah.
us isolated. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if how you navigated those thoughts and how you would help someone in that situation.
Well, take it a day at a time, you know? It's okay to sit with the emotions and let them be for a moment before you're ready to come back out of it. So definitely take it a day at a time. I'd also encourage you to not be ashamed of using the resources in your home. It's that neat concept I mentioned. Don't neglect how much activity you could be doing just from the safety of your home. Um, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a virtual workout, though it can be.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
it
Yeah.
can it can be turning on your favorite music and dancing and singing your face off while you're cooking.
Love it.
You know, it
Yeah.
can be those simple things as well. So
Yeah.
don't neglect those little things. They add up. They really do.
And like walks with your baby.
Yeah. But I
Yeah.
will say, when I first had my baby, I wanted the walks to be for me,
Hmm.
you know? Like I was always with my baby. I almost felt, I wouldn't want to say suffocated, but like I didn't have a time for me, you know? And so if I had the opportunity to go on a walk, it's funny, my husband would always be like, you know, if he had to be at work, because he could only be at home with me for 2 weeks, he'd say, well, why don't you go on a walk with the baby? I'm like, that sounds lovely and everything, but I don't want to have to do it with the baby. I want to have to do it just for me.
Hmm.
But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there, that it's okay to have that feeling. If you do have an opportunity to do that and like to do that, please do so. Like, don't ignore those little things that you can
Well,
do.
we just talked about the evolution, right? Like it a generation ago, 2 generations ago, certainly longer, it wouldn't have been such a big deal to hand our
Hmm.
baby off to a sister, an aunt, someone, so that we had a second to ourselves. Like
Yeah,
we evolved in community. So, I just think it's an important thing to recognize that like that thought is evolutionarily sound. It makes sense. In fact, you do need space from your baby, and in a different setting, you would have had it. There are amazing things about the evolution of our lineage, as we
yeah,
discussed, right? Like incredible, miraculous moments. And there are things that fell by the wayside, including community.
yeah,
So it's totally normal to say, like, I want to be alone. And I do feel suffocated by always being with my baby. I do need to hand her off every now and then to someone
yeah,
safe and to someone loving and to someone kind and to someone, you know, but someone.
yeah,
That's cool. That's
yeah,
totally within evolution. Jadi just told us all she never once felt like she didn't have enough love, resources, support. In fact, it was the opposite.
yeah. It's true.
Yeah. I can't believe it, but we are rounding out our time together. Isn't that crazy?
That's wild.
But I'm wondering if there's anything we haven't touched around this area, or if there's anything on your heart that you wanted to share. We could take a moment and think on it.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, we've shared a lot. I love how our conversation has kind of gone. Um, I big thing. I'm hoping people find a space where they can freely be themselves. And of course, like we came to the conclusion, I'd love to see a world where all women, all people can move freely.
Amen.
Yeah. Physically and just through life.
Yeah.
There's physical movement and fitness and health and all that, and then in life as well.
What a beautiful blessing.
Yeah.
May you move with freedom.
Yeah.
Where can we find you, Jadi?
I would love for you guys to find me on Instagram. It would just be my name at Jadi Collado. And we can be friends there.
I love that. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for reaching out. This was just so lovely. I loved all the fun kind of like things I never thought about this conversation with you. And I'm hoping that people maybe feel a little seen and heard a bit after this. And
Yeah,
I'm around. Hit me up.
totally.
DMs.
And if you're in Philly, take Jadi's class, right?
Yes, please do come out. I teach for a lifetime. So if you're not a member at that specific gym, just hit a girl up. I'll guest you in. And,
Awesome.
you can have
Thank
a
you
taste
so
of what
much.
I do.
All bodies welcome. Okay,
All bodies.
friends? All
right.
bodies welcome. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you guys in a week with another episode of the Mom Curious podcast. Jadi, I hope I see you one of these days. I love seeing you online.
I do. I'll send you a little message if I'm in New York City. It's very rare, but I'll send you a little message.
Cool. I'm always here. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Mom Curious podcast. My name is Danielle Rabbani. I am your host, and I would love to continue this conversation at Daniela Rabbani on Instagram. And if you'd be so kind to rate and review, share this podcast, I would be just really grateful. Catch you next time, every Tuesday on the Mom Curious podcast, produced by Hoff Studios. You can find them at Hoff Studios on Instagram as well. All right, have a great day.